Welcome back to our fifth session of Flourishing Family. My name is Robbie Dobbs. I'm one of the pastors here at CityRise, and it has been a privilege to spend time together each week, encouraging one another on our marriage and parenting journeys.
And I'm Emily Dobbs. I'm on the missions team here at CityRise. The scripture says that iron sharpens iron, and we hope that you have felt that sharpening process a bit as we have spent these hours together. Last time we had a great discussion about how to equip our kids for the world and finding balance as we seek to protect them at times. Today, we will continue the series with the subject, Kids on Mission. This is what it's all about, preparing our kids to launch out into the world and make a difference for Jesus Christ.
Pastor Ben will encourage us to start our children young on their life of servanthood and gospel proclamation. Thank you for being with us again today, and we hope you are challenged and inspired to flourish as a family. Take it over, Ben and Kelly.
Hey, thank you, Robbie and Emily, and thank you guys for being back here with us for another session. I'm really excited about this one, and thanks to everybody watching this from home. I want to start off this talk about, family on mission together by asking you guys, tell us a little bit, maybe an experience you've had on when, as a family, you've gone on mission together. Maybe you've served someone else, or you've been on a trip, or a part of a volunteer project locally. What was that like for your family? Allison, you got the mic?
Yeah, so we took the opportunity to go on a trip that our church offered to the Dominican Republic. We brought all of our 5 kids, and
our youngest was 3 at the time. And the first day we got there, as he was jumping off the bunk beds onto the floor, we looked at each other and said, "What did we do?" And it was great after that moment. It worked out better than we could have imagined after those first few hours.
Wow, that's amazing. We feel you on that. What did we do moment? Judy.
I'm born and raised here, but my parents are from India. And I remember when we went back to India for my grandmother's funeral, there was a moment where I was very young, so I don't remember all of it. But I remember my dad buying kind of this cloth thing that the men and women would wear. And we visited a leper colony, and there were a lot of lepers who were ostracized. So they lived together on a compound. And I remember my dad passing those out to the people there. And what actually brought that back to my memory is that my daughter and I are planning to go to India this December.
Wow.
And so I remember thinking, man, it would be really cool if we did something service-oriented.
Yeah.
And that's when that memory came back to me, is remembering doing that with my dad. Wow. So it was just really special to remember, like, how when we do things with our kids, they can become like a core memory in our life. And so it kind of inspired me, like, I want to do that for my kid. So hopefully one day she'll do that with her kid too.
Man, that is so powerful. Judy, how old were you when you with your parents?
I was in 5th grade.
5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're getting ready to take your daughter. How old's your daughter?
She's 11.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. You see that, guys, how that DNA gets in there? I love that. I love this idea of just taking our kids along to serve as we go. And it really does put the right DNA in their lives to prepare them to be out there on their own. And that's where we're going in today's session, talking about families being on mission together. It's definitely a subject that we're passionate about. I want to start off by letting Kelly tell you guys a story of sort of something crazy we did, as a family along these lines.
So in the year 2020, when the world was shut down due to COVID, we decided to do something pretty crazy as a family. Our church was digital, school was canceled, plane tickets were actually very cheap.
Yep.
So we thought this is a great time to just drop everything and take our whole family to Africa on a mission trip. So we have 6 kids, and at the time, our youngest was under 2 years old. So we had our what do we do moment very early on.
I still can't believe we did it.
The logistics seemed insurmountable for taking such a large family to a very remote mountain village in Maasai land of Kenya. But 8 negative COVID tests later, 8 passports in hand, 16 bags, and a jogging stroller, we made it. And it was the most amazing experience that we've had as a family so far. I remember our little baby, Gwenny, she's 4 now, she got super sick on the mountaintop. And that was definitely another moment. I was like, what in the world have we done?
Yeah.
Super hot, like 104 temperature, and there was, the nurses were on strike. There was literally nowhere for us to take her. And it was just, it was a very humbling moment. Come on, this is how these mothers feel all the time.
Yeah,
it was a very life-changing moment for me. So, but first, before that, we spent a couple of days in Nairobi. Then we spent 10 full days in the bush ministering to the church in a village where we've been working for several years. We had our meals over an open fire. We slept on the crumbling floor of a school building with no glass in the window panes, and the hyenas made noises right outside our window. Our kids were literally having nightmares about this. We went 9 days with no real bath, which our little boys absolutely loved. And we went everywhere by foot, up and down the mountains. We had no car with us, so wherever we went, we walked with the baby strapped to us. And we just engaged in village life for those 10 days. And you're probably wondering, was this hard? And absolutely, it was probably the hardest thing we've ever done.
It was hard.
But the memories that our kids have and that we have, it's been etched into our family's minds forever. And just to watch the kids come alive to an accurate worldview of God's global kingdom and to see them fully embrace and love their peers another place. I want to cry. It was really special, letting them see, we can talk about poverty, but to let them experience in that visceral way and just see the joy that people have when they literally have nothing. Their kids don't have shoes. They literally have one outfit to wear. They don't have spoons. I mean, literally nothing. But it was just such a soul-shaping experience for our family that we couldn't have given them any other way, I don't think. And some of them at a very young age. Our littlest will still say, she doesn't remember, I don't think, but she'll say, let's go back to Africa. So our kids have definitely been bitten by the missions bug, and they argue about whose turn it is to go on the next mission trip, and we're going to go broke on mission trips.
Yes.
They just have a love for the nations that I think was born and on that trip. And one of our daughters is already negotiating for a gap year after graduation to spend a year in Kenya. So I feel like that trip, even though it was like super hard and expensive and complicated, it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, I still don't know what I think about the gap year in Africa after high school. Yeah, the jury's still out on that one, but for sure. So we tell you this story not to highlight our family as any different or special than any other family, but we tell you this story to illustrate the principle that this really works. It really works. When we get our kids out there on mission at a young age, as many of you shared, and we give them the opportunity to discover that they were created for something so much bigger than themselves, that they were created to serve God and to join Him in His redemptive mission across the street and around the world. They were created for this, to be sent out for the glory of God. And there's nothing more exhilarating than watching it happen in real time and seeing your kids go and do that. And so let me give you a scripture to kind of frame this call to action, this ultimate goal of parenting to launch our kids out well on mission. It actually comes from Psalm 127, verses 1-5. It says this: unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for He gives to His beloved sleep. That sounds very inviting right now. He gives to His beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb a reward. Now here's the verse I really want you to pay attention to. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who has his quiver full of them. He will not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate. I love this passage and I love this image. There's so much wonderful and weighty truth here that children are a blessing to be received. By the way, children are not a nuisance, not something to be avoided. It's hard work raising a family, yet it's the Lord who strengthens us and gives us the strength that we need for the task. But my favorite part of the passage is this description of raising children as this metaphor of arrows, right? It says, like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior are children. What a powerful picture. What a powerful image. I don't know if you guys have spent any time in the sport of archery. When I was a kid, I used to shoot some, and I love archery. And what I learned over the years is that it's way more detailed and way more involved than it may appear at first glance. The bow has to be well suited for the archer himself. The arrow must be carefully crafted and specifically made ready to match the bow. The arrow must be prepared to fly fast and far and straight. And then finally, there's this moment where the arrow is launched towards its target with a particular aim in mind. And all of this takes a lot of practice to get it right. I mean, you have to shoot over and over and over again to get it right. And that's what parenting is like, right? That's our goal, is that moment when we've done all this work preparing the arrow and the bow, and we suit it right, and we pull it back and we launch it, and we practice that over and over and over again, because what we want is kids that fly far and fast and straight to hit the target. That's our desire. I know we desire the same things for our children, that they would hit the bullseye, right, in their lives, and that they would be successful. But what is the bullseye, and what does success really look like? What is the target? Is it academic excellence? Is it achievement in sports? Is it getting into the prestigious or preferred college? Is it landing that job that others would desire? Is it material things, or is it something bigger than all of those things? I would say that the bullseye that we're aiming our kids toward and launching them towards is to find their place in the center of God's will in the world and in the center of God's mission. That's where we want them to end up. That's where we want them to be. And it's often been said that where our passions and skills intersect with the world's need, that is where God is calling us to work. And so our God is a God on mission, and he is inviting us to join him on mission, and he's inviting our kids to join him on mission. He's inviting us to go as husband and wife and serve together. And, serving together is one of the most enriching things we can do for our marriage. And it's one of the most worldview shaping things we can do for our kids. He's inviting us to join him on mission. So what does this look like practically? Let me just give you a few tangible ideas. We'll discuss it in a moment. Maybe you have other ideas, but let me just give you 3. The first is this: you could sponsor a child. You guys are aware of these programs out there where you can sponsor a child in a village through a great organization like Compassion or World Vision or Samaritan's Purse or Orphan Outreach. There's a lot of programs that offer this really amazing opportunity, right, to connect your child with a child in another part of the world of the same age in a village that's struggling, and then they have the opportunity to correspond with that child. And by sponsoring a child, you're involving your children in the process of staying in touch with the felt needs of other kids around the world. And so you're opening their eyes, right? You're opening their mind to see that the world looks different in other places and that people have needs, and that God is calling us to share with them and meet their needs. And so we've done the child sponsor thing, I think, how many times now?
3
3 kids. And so we haven't always been that, the best at it and the writing back and forth. But if you ask our kids, if that was an important thing in their life, I think they would say yes. Yeah. So another thing you can do, second idea is finding a local family-friendly opportunity to serve. So, right here in your hometown, finding those places where you can go out and serve together and bring your kids along. They just start right where you are. That's the idea. And you may not be ready yet, and it's totally okay. Like not everybody is gonna, get 8 plane tickets and go on a plane to Africa and live in the bush. We get that. That's not. It was a unique thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Not everybody is called to that, but there is something you can do here and now. And like the things we share, these simple action steps to take your kids along here and now to begin to serve others. Our city is filled with so many opportunities to serve the less fortunate and to share God's love. Being a part of welcoming refugee families from around the world is a readily available opportunity right here. Feeding the homeless, helping out, mentoring at an inner city school, working with an urban farmer from Africa that's growing crops and trying to make a living for his family, loving our new Afghani neighbors who have come because of world events recently. There's limitless opportunities to go right now and involve our kids in getting their hands dirty and being readily available for the Lord to send them out to serve in the here and now. So we need to look for those open doors to take our kids. And then let me go to the third just practical idea that I have for you. And it's this, and some of you have already talked about it. Try going on a family mission trip, right? It doesn't have to be to Africa. It could be just a few days somewhere closer by, like Latin America. But I do believe there's something really special of going on that first international trip as a family. And it'll be a milestone, really, in your parenting journey. I can promise you that. And so it starts with the simple step of getting passports for everyone, right? Like if you don't have passports, that's your first action step. Go home and apply for passports because you have to have those to go.
I can help you with that. I've done 8 of them. So
Yes. I did nothing on the passports. Kelly did it all, and she is a pro at that, In fact, at the very moment that I wrote this session for our study, our church had a team in the Dominican Republic and then crossing paths with another team heading to Ireland, right, with some of our our teenagers. And so I'm so thankful for our church and the opportunities that we have through our missions department. Emily's helping us facilitate that we have the opportunity to say yes, to join God in his mission. Look, the logistics are hard, they're intense, but it will be so worth it when you just make the decision. You know what, as a family, we're going to try it out. We're going to go. And so as we wrap this session up, I want you to think about that moment. Parents, when the archer releases the arrow, because this is what you're working, like every day you're making lunches, right? And maybe you're changing diapers still, and you're getting kids in and out of school and carpool lines. And what you're doing is you're pulling back the bow, right? All of that hard work, all of that preparation, all of that strength to pull the string back enough, all of that careful aiming and crafting everything just right. And then one day it happens, right? You let the string go and the arrow flies and it goes far and it goes fast and it goes straight and it hits the target, which is living for the glory of God. That's the moment we're striving for. That's what it is that we're talking about and what we're all about as we think about flourishing family. Our kids were meant to fly, and we're making them ready to go with the parenting work that we're doing as we live in community to do our best to raise a flourishing family. And so I pray that as we release those arrows to fly, that we're sending them into the world, not just to be successful adults one day, right, in the way that the world defines success, but to be warriors that are on mission with God to go and make a difference in the world. So let's keep talking about this a little bit, guys. You know, what I'd love to hear from you all is about a time when you did go out and serve as a couple or as a family. Maybe you brought the kids and you were able to serve others. What I really want to hear is, how did that impact your worldview as a couple? And then how did that impact the worldview of your kids? How did you see that make a difference? I think we're going to start with Kristen.
Well, during Harvey, our family had the opportunity to serve together, and we served families not just that we knew, but also families that we didn't know. And we formed relationships with those families that we still have today, and it was very impactful for us.
Wow, that's amazing.
When I was a child, my family, I think it was my mom was tight with our, one of our assistant principals at the school I was at. And so she would find a family that was just really in need. So we would adopt this family for Christmas. So, my mom and dad and my two brothers and I would go out to the store, and they would just say all right, here's this list of whatever they need. And they were awesome, throw it away. And we would just run down the toys aisle and just buy so many toys. And my parents were no, okay, well, you have to actually they need other things than, Legos and Transformers. And so, but it's really easy to spend money that's not yours and that's your parents. But what we just loved about it is that we got to help these kids have a good Christmas, and we were so eager to give them toys that we wanted that we sometimes wouldn't even get for Christmas, and that we could give to them and help them not have as bad of a holiday as maybe they've had before. So.
I love that. I mean, it sounds like it helped create in you some other centeredness,
Most definitely.
Yeah. I want to go to Pastor Robbie over here. Pastor Robbie, you've got a couple of grown kids that are out there serving the Lord. So
So I'll be an encouragement to those who are still contemplating. When you set that foundation, the great joy is that we talk about shooting the arrows out, launching them out, and then you get to see your kids begin to choose missions out of their own heart. Wow. I have a daughter who's serving as a women's pastor in Queens, New York. This is my daughter-in-law, Emily. She married my son. We talk about the power of prayer. We started praying for our son's future wife for a long time. And God stepped up and did more than we could ever hope for or imagine. But to see them serve, to see them make it their own, 3 John 4 talks about there is no greater joy than to hear that your children are walking in the truth. And this idea of hearing, you got to send them out. Let them figure it out where their heart, their passions are, where they lie. But then you get the reward of getting to see and hear what they're experiencing because of that foundation that was set. And there's no greater joy, literally, than that, to see your kids take it on their own and to serve. So you still parent. You parent forever. Yeah. But it's very different. It's much more rewarding when you see them living it out for themselves.
That's so good. That's so encouraging. Kelly, you have anything else that comes to mind from our crew?
Well, I'll share briefly about when our daughter got sick on the mountaintop. When I say the middle of nowhere, it is unbelievably in the middle of nowhere. And I remember I was praying, and one of our friends, Mary, came over, and she, and her broken English and my very limited Swahili were trying to talk, and I told her my baby was sick, and she just came and laid hands on her and prayed like I have never seen anybody pray before. And it was just, to me, that was just such a life-changing moment, because it's like, this woman literally has nothing. She has 8 children. She's a widow. I mean, she has nothing to her name, and she's just like begging for my baby's life. And I mentioned the nurses were on strike. We found an American doctor that worked in a nearby town. I called him. He was in the hospital himself. I mean, literally, when I say we could not find help, we could not find help. Yeah. But we just, gathered around her and prayed, and she got better. That was just a very powerful moment for me. And our kids were able to see that as well.
Yeah, I don't think our kids will ever forget those experiences. Shifting gears just a little bit, this idea of going out and serving and bringing our kids to serve and going on a mission trip, this kind of thing, it's hard, right? It's hard. And for some people, it's pretty scary. So I wanted just to hear maybe from some of you about what are the fears, what are the anxieties for you? How is it sort of easier not to go, or what would help you be encouraged to deal with some of those fears and live as a family on mission? Anybody have anything?
One of the opportunities as a family that we've had over the years is working with an organization in the 3rd Ward of Houston called The Forge. It's a Christian-based organization that offers an opportunity for children to come in and be in a safe environment with Christian upbringing, if you will. But there's a paucity of books, and there's a paucity of being able to have access to them throughout the hours.
Yeah.
So we participated in a 3-day event where we built outdoor libraries.
Wow.
So they'd have outdoor access to them 24/7, knowing that the books might come, they might go, but they would have access to reading material in a safe environment that would be quality books. What I saw from a family perspective, from the children's eyes, is that they saw that it wasn't a world where you could have any book at any time, and it wasn't a big deal. To these children, it was a very big deal. And I believe it brought our family together to see that there's people in need literally miles away from where we live.
Absolutely. That's so good. Switching gears just a little bit, this idea of going and serving and meeting needs across the street and around the world, it can be daunting, right? And it can be scary. And a lot of times there are some fears, some anxieties that some of you may be thinking about. It might seem a little bit intimidating, to go on mission as a family. So I'd love to talk just a minute here about, how do we overcome those fears? I want to come back to the Finches and your first time you went out, on a family mission trip, and you remember you had that moment that was like, oh my goodness. So what happened from there?
What did we do? We brought our 3-year-old. What the Lord really did was our 3-year-old became the icebreaker in this culture where we didn't speak the same language fluently. Our son loved to perform and be the center of attention. And so he became that icebreaker, because children just have a way of being animated and saying things that you don't even need to say with language. And so God just did that. And it became a fear no longer in a moment when he did that. It was really neat.
Well, I love that, how that God, when we step forward in obedience and we get moving, God brings exactly what we need in that moment to overcome the fear. That's so good. Anybody else? Maybe an anxiety that you have, Wes?
Yeah, so my parents came over from India, and so they lived like the jungle life and all that kind of stuff. So I'm first generation here.
Yeah.
And so now to do missions, it's like I'm trying to go back there. And so it's just uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I mean, like silly things like food and even the restroom. I mean, it's not a European toilet. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know. It's the wrong angle. So it's just uncomfortable. I mean, I feel like I get sick, but I mean, it's surface level issues, But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's a reality, right? I mean, that's a real fear, a real anxiety. Things like, the bathroom and what are we going to eat? And we've been in some very uncomfortable situations in those. But for those of you that have been, and, Wes, I'm sure you could attest to this, after you go and you come back, you do realize those are small things, right? Like there's such a bigger picture there. Well, thank you guys for sharing all this. I'm really excited. I'm really energized about this idea of serving together, being on mission as a family. Hey, thank you for joining us for Flourishing Family. We hope this has been a rich time together as you think about the important things right now, those big rocks and priorities in the jar of your life at home. We hope that you have been encouraged by the Word of God and by our friends here, and we really appreciate your time in joining us on this journey.